Don't ever call them sidekicks. MCU heroes are great, but they're only as good as their superhero best friends, proteges, and partners. While some superheroes have 12-year-old kids who follow them around and beat up bad guys with quick-witted quips, those from the MCU have straight-up warriors backing them up. Well, warriors who also have quick-witted quips.
Awesome.
If only Cap could see you now.
Hilarious.
Many of these second-build heroes have even done the impossible by surpassing the character whose name is on the movie title.
How many more of these?
Tony Stark talks a lot about philanthropy, and we rarely see the fruits of that labor. I mean, he spent all that time working on clean energy, but every average Joe in the MCU still drives around in a car that conspicuously isn't running on a Stark arc reactor. Also, Tony has had those fancy holographic computers since the first Iron Man, and everyone else still has to go to the freaking Apple store. As far as preparing for the next generation goes, he did a pretty fantastic job of helping Peter Parker become Avengers material. Of course, most of the rest of his work seemed to lead him creating a series of supervillains that he fought at first and then Peter had to fight later. While Tony struggled with how to be a good person his entire life, for Pete, it just comes naturally. He just naturally is all of the things that Tony ever wanted to be. From the looks of how Sony is throwing all the money and all the Spider-Man at the future of that franchise, it seems likely that Pete will become the hero Tony was and more. Hopefully his story won't have to end with him sacrificing his life for the fate of the universe. I don't really think Ned is prepared to deal with that emotionally. Or me, for that matter. It's kind of crazy to think that before the MCU, Stephen Strange spent most of his adult life in med school training to become one of the best surgeons in the world. Then his life became the ultimate after-school special about the dangers of texting and driving. His life was completely derailed, forcing him into the tutelage of the Ancient One, where he traded really expensive college textbooks for really cryptic ancient texts. Seeing as the residents of Kamar Taj don't believe in material possessions, at least he didn't have to take out any student loans. While the Ancient One spent much of his time training him, making him feel like the last kid to get picked in gym class, eventually those tried and true med school skills paid off and he jumped to the front of the class. If that wasn't enough for him to supplant the Ancient One as the most supreme of Sorcerer Supremes, he fought against Dormammu for hundreds of years before the interdimensional monster gave up. Even the Ancient One admitted that he had surpassed her and all that came before her. As impressive as all that is, all the time stones in the world won't save him from those frickin' student loans. Ugh, trust me. Bucky Barnes and Steve Rogers had a very, very strange friendship. They started off with Steve as Bucky's sidekick everywhere they went. The man who would be Captain America was a wee little guy and was only getting beaten up only for Bucky to come in and save him. They really flipped the script on that when Steve took the super soldier serum and became the ultimate American hero. He managed to save Bucky, not realizing that he'd basically have to save Bucky for the rest of his life. Both their transitions into modern history were pretty traumatic. Bucky had to deal with years of being hypnotized into a trained assassin for Hydra. Steve had to deal with not understanding anyone's pop culture references. So it's a toss-up for which one of them has it worse. Bucky, though, actually managed to face those demons and made peace with the modern world. After going to assassin rehab in Wakanda as the White Wolf, Bucky seems to be fine with life as a modern superhero now. Steve was never able to get there. He ended up returning to the past, abandoning his life as an Avenger forever. Though to be fair, Buck didn't have anyone like Peggy Carter waiting for him. Thor originally had a whole gang of heroes who followed him into battle. They were known as Lady Sif and the Warriors 3. Aside from sounding like a metal band from the 80s, they were constantly at Thor's side, backing him up through both of the first two movies. Then Hela came in Ragnarok and ruined that pretty quickly by skewering them all in about 8 seconds. Well, there's still a chance Lady Sif is out there somewhere at least. Big rumor is she'll be in Love and Thunder. So now that Thor was severely lacking in sidekicks, he needed someone else to come in with the assist. Enter Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie, who made one of the all-time greatest character introductions in the entire MCU. She started off as a down-on-her-luck drunk, but has managed to outdo Thor over the years as the go-to Asgardian hero. When Thor went through some hard times in Endgame, Valkyrie was the one who stepped up and eventually made into the official ruler of the Asgardians. Thor may have coveted this role for years, but it turns out that he wasn't really suited for it. Who would have thought that when they met, Valkyrie would be the ruler and Thor would be the down-on-his-luck drunk? That's quite the change-up. One of the biggest running jokes in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was the rivalry between Star-Lord and Rocket over which one of them was the captain of the Guardians. At the end of the movie, it was pretty clear that Peter Quill won the Battle of the Captains. That is, until Thor joined the team and redubbed them the Asgardians of the Galaxy. Before Thor took over the ship, though, Quill had already been surpassed by his former little rival. Quill may be captain, but is he an Avenger? After half the universe was wiped clean due to Thanos, and due to Peter Quill being immature during their fight on Titan, Rocket stepped up to join Earth's mightiest to protect the galaxy. He was even an integral part of the big-time heist in Endgame, securing the ether from Jane Foster after Thor had a breakdown. I mean, after living with Quill for so long, he's got expertise dealing with volatile humans. Rhodey and Tony had quite the rocky relationship. Not only because of the behind-the-scenes actor drama either. Rhodey started his time with Tony as the man's military babysitter, and then became the second fiddle Iron Man. That job seemed pretty good across the Iron Man films and one Age of Ultron cameo. But things got real when he crossed into the Captain America franchise. He lost the use of his legs due to a missed shot from his own team. During the transition between Infinity War and Endgame, he took up Tony's slot in the Avengers as the go-to robot man. That journey's going to carry him through to his own series, Armor Wars, on Disney+. That storyline in the comics had bad guys getting a hold of some of Tony Stark's suits. Then he goes rogue to get them back. This storyline seems even better in a world where Tony's no longer around. Rhodey will have to come into his own as the only Iron Man in town to protect his friend's legacy and become the kind of hero even Iron Man couldn't be. Would it be too much to get Terrence Howard to play the villain? I mean, I doubt he'd do it, but it would be so great to see the War of the Rhodies. Cap and Sam Wilson's entire relationship could be summed up to their first scene. Sam working as hard as he can while Cap blows past him over and over with an "on your left." This has been his entire life in the MCU, struggling to keep up, let alone pass the poster child of the entire mega franchise. So it'll be interesting to see how Sam finally outruns Steve Rogers to become the ultimate Captain America. While it confused a ton of fans who thought Bucky should be the one to take up the shield, the first Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer made it a lot clearer. As great as Steve and Buck are, they are both men at a time. What the chaotic world of the MCU needs right now is a Captain America for modern America. Sam Wilson is a modern vet who, like Steve, spent his free time mentoring those who are struggling to readjust to modern life. He's also someone who was decimated by Thanos, so he understands more than anyone the struggles that many people in the MCU probably feel after being brought back to life. So it's quite possible that Sam could be a better Cap than Steve ever was. He just needs to practice throwing that shield, of course. Wanda's pretty much lost everything that she's ever loved, so she desperately needed a mentor to bring her into the world of avenging. Luckily, she got two. Both Hawkeye and Black Widow decided to take her under their wings. Hawkeye started her off on her avenging journey by motivating her into battle with Ultron. He was always there to offer her tough love when she needed it most. Romanov was much more of a practical skills mentor.
Get the people on the boats.
I'm not going to leave you here.
I can handle these.
Have you ever noticed how Wanda has a thick accent in Age of Ultron, but it steadily goes away? That's all Natasha's doing. While Clint worked with Wanda's fighting spirit, Romanov made sure that fighting spirit knew what to do. She trained her to be a proper Avenger as best as she was able. Unfortunately, having your most powerful Avenger trained by the least powerful Avengers is not a great idea. Her powers are directly influenced by her mental state. That's why her mental breakdown seems to have broken reality itself in WandaVision. Maybe they should have sent her to Asgard to train instead. There's no getting around it. We would all love a world where Chadwick Boseman could have starred as T'Challa, the Black Panther, for like 25 more movies at least. He was the perfect person for that role, and there's no way he could ever be replaced. That being said, I have a lot of faith in Shuri's ability to carry the mantle. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Shuri is better suited to lead Wakanda through T'Challa's dream for the nation than T'Challa ever was. Shuri is the face of progress and change in Wakanda. Her technological advances are what have moved the country into such a science fiction direction. She's so progressive that her influence on T'Challa seemed to be the main reason why M'Baku challenged T'Challa for the throne. T'Challa wanted Wakanda to rejoin the world, but he didn't know anything about it. Shuri seems well versed on popular culture and is unafraid of change. I don't know if she's gonna have his killer moves though. It's likely that we'll see Shuri's Black Panther for decades to come as she continues to lead Wakanda and join the Avengers. That Captain Marvel-led female Avengers movie is seeming more and more like a certainty. It's kinda crazy to think that in the first Ant-Man movie, Hope Van Dyne was pretty much your standard Marvel love interest character. She assisted with the big heist, but really didn't have a lot to do in the action department. Boy, did that change because she absolutely stole the sequel from Scott Lang. Every single fight scene featuring the Wasp was an edge-of-your-seat moment, where she was running on knives and fighting all over the place. Scott Lang basically went from being the superhero to arguably the comic relief. I think Scott's time in the MCU is likely coming to a close, but Hope's has just begun. We've covered a lot of side characters who have overcome their heroes, but none who have made their heroes into glorified sidekicks. Their next movie really shouldn't be called Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It should just be called The Wasp and Ant-Man.
I think he's right.
Now that we've seen some serious side character love from Disney+, we want to see more! Where's Ned's Guy in the Chair show, huh? Lady Sif's Where Have I Been show, Most importantly, when is Michael Pena gonna have a show about Lewis, where he basically just does one of those monologues for 30 minutes each week?
I just get excited and stuff.
It could even be one of those after shows recapping the other shows. You're welcome, Disney. If you agree and have your own brilliant ideas to pitch to the Disney execs, who obviously watch this channel,
No doubt.
leave us a comment and don't forget to like and subscribe to CBR.